I'm supposed to express things that is not expressible. Anyway, still trying to express that is inexpressible has been the tradition of this land. Trying to long for things that are not longable is what these people of this land has been doing for centuries. So, for the most of the Indian mind, this is not a contradiction. This is very much something that you do. This is very much at home. I'm very happy to be in this space that is that has the name Prajna, because just having the name Prajna, I mean the very term Prajna is priceless, so precious. This is probably, I've been thinking quite, I've been also asking around. Prajna maybe is probably the most unique to India. Well, I have to say, one should, I think we should give a space for Chinese, especially when we talk about Taoism. The Taoist, they may not use the word Prajna, but they might have something. I have a feeling they do, but I have a lot of admiration towards what little I know and I have read about Taoism. So there we need to be open-minded. Apart from that, Prajna is very, very unique. The word wisdom is not doing the justice at all. I was reading several dictionaries, but out of the lack of choice of word, we will use the word wisdom nevertheless. It is believed that after years of penance and study and practice, Siddhartha Gautama finally went to Magadha, and under the Bodhi tree, he got it. He got awakened. I don't know how to say it. Even in the Tibetan in the Tibetan expressions, we have many different expressions. We use many, many different expressions to express that feeling or that state. I think many countries do have this, and India definitely have so many language that cannot be translated actually. Like the Japanese, they have this special words also. They have many words in Japan. For instance, like you look at horizon, and then let's say you are looking at the sea, and then all these boats traveling, here, there, and then suddenly the boat sort of disappears, at the horizon. The Japanese have a word to express that feeling. What do you get when you look at? I mean, we can only use the disappearance of that ship. But the Japanese have a word to express that very feeling or the state or the phenomena. I think India has millions of those, which I'm sure most of you Indians don't even know and take for granted. But something maybe you should take notice of this, because that's those nuances are dying, and I think quite important. Prajna not only fall into that category, the word prajna, but I think it's much more than that. It's not only not translatable, but it's actually cannot be expressed. Anyway, I was talking to you about life of the Buddha. At the end of the lot of study and practice, he achieved, let's call it awakened state. And then right after that, he said, I have found, there's a few words he used. I have found profound, peaceful, extremeless, yes, luminous, uncompounded truth. So he has a sort of a five words he chose. He said, I found a truth that is brilliant, luminous, uncompounded, unfabricated. But no one is going to hear this. No one has no matter who he speak these, nobody can actually hear it. Yes, nobody will hear it. Therefore, I shall now remain in the forest. That's what he said. And, the legend, I don't want to use the word legend, the account, in the Buddhist account, life of the Buddha's account, it is said that the Lord Indra and Brahma came to him and said, no, you must. They requested, they asked him to turn the wheel of the Dharma. He said, you can use different means and skills and words and language so that people can come to this truth, because beings need to hear this, because this is the only way to relinquish themselves. So they actually, when he said, no one can hear this, that quality, that's already a description of prajna, out of the lack of, So that's something that I want to tell you. It's almost as a disclaimer, okay? Even the Shakyamuni Buddha himself said this cannot be uttered, expressed, and cannot be heard. But he also said later, he said this can be experienced, just like a dumb, mute can experience the sweet, but cannot really express how sweet it is to others. Just like that, you can experience it. And then there's myriad ways to experience this. And these are found in the Shastras and the Sutras. One thing, and this come into my mind, people who cherish prajna, because the word wisdom is associated with intellect, clever, intellect, sort of smart, he has so much wisdom, he's smart, so on and so forth. The tradition that cherishes prajna seems to really not only not put emphasis on common sense, they almost detest something called common sense. This is something that you need to keep in head. common, like even if you go to China, there is Confucianism. It's full of common sense. Respect the elders, harmony is important, filial piety, or social order, so on and so forth. Common sense. But when we talk about a wisdom, it's not common sense. Actually, as I'm repeating here, the wisdom people or the prajna people, really, they're very, very and cautious about this thing called common sense. Because common sense makes sense. It's usable. It's profitable. It keeps you in order. It keeps you alive, so to speak. Wisdom, on the other hand, I'm not saying that wisdom is senseless, by the way. It's definitely not a senseless, but it is nothing to do with making sense. And this is something that, especially the Indians, you should really treasure this, because there are a lot of beautiful things that has happened thousands of years in your place, and it's still sort of happening, I think, despite the invasion of Amazon, Facebook, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Starbucks, I don't know, all that, it's still happening. That, the things that you do that is kind of, it doesn't make sense. It's not commonsensical. The Indians, where is the common sense in things that Indians do? Well, of course, there are a lot of things that maybe you don't wish to do, but there are certain things that are really strange. But that is the beauty, that is the wealth. And I have a feeling, I really feel that this has a root in appreciation to the value of Prajna. Now, I just want to put all this first, and then we can talk about sort of the classic explanation of the Prajna, okay? Now, sentient being is the word, English word. The Tibetan word is Sentient. What is Hindi? Jiva. What does that mean?
Which has emotions, feelings.
Which has. And this is good. This is good. In the Tibetan, it's Sentient. Sen is mind. Chen means, Chen is a grammatical sort of word, or a word that, which means one that has, which has. Can you pay some attention to this? So this actually denotes that Prajna is not mind. When Prajna has mind, then it is sentient being. When Prajna has mind. So what does this indicate? It indicates a lot of the Indian wisdom tradition, and especially Buddhism, they really try to get rid of mind. It's really quite profound, It's really, the whole so-called Dharma, spiritual path, is to get rid of this mind, because mind is troublesome. From the Prajna people's point of view, mind is troublesome. Mind is like a water. You pour it, it falls on the ground, it collects dirt. Our mind collects, like all this dirt, the anger, the desire, the jealousy, all this. But Prajna is like a mercury. You can put it in a, blender with all kinds of dirt and mix it for thousands and thousands of lifetimes, but mercury stays. So this so now, with this you can see how an enlightened being or Mahasiddhas, or Bodhisattvas. When Bodhisattvas, especially for those Bodhisattvas who have reached higher states, when they look at sentient being, it's like, oh, poor him or her. And when we say poor him, he has headache. Poor him or her, he or she has, toothache. A problem. So the Bodhisattvas of the higher class, when they look at us, oh, poor people, those who have mind. They're stuck with the mind. Mind is a troublesome. Mind is something, it's like a dirt, it's like a... And mind is, when we talk about the mind, we are talking about the common sense. It keeps on making sense. It keeps on having some sort of a logic. It keeps on having order. And this actually, because we are so used to this kind of comfort zone, we feel kind of, it's very strange. Our mind, we human beings are really strange. We like to be very special, but at the same time we also like to wear, like if you go to a fashion shop, that so-called trend. So everybody is buying the same thing, isn't it? There is this style that's happening. But this style that you are taking refuge to actually is depriving you from being a special. And so you are not unique. When I was coming here to Bengaluru, at the airport in Pune, everybody is sort of tie suit. But actually, I have to say, India is quite special. This generally, but in the airport, I saw these two from Rajasthan. You think? Prashant, do you think they are from Rajasthan? These two elderly gentlemen, and they have a pink big turban. They are elderly, and they have this shoes. What do you call it? Juti. Oh, wow. They were like billion times better than Prada, Calvin Klein. It's just so amazing. It's just so beautiful, so amazing. They stand out. And they weren't even doing it for the sake of standing out. They're just sitting there. I even asked, can we take a photo? He said no. And I was very happy that they said no. That's the way to go, isn't it? That's the way to go. But along that line, we are kind of very complicated species. I think we like to be special, but we also, that's how the mind functions. And by the way, there are a lot of artists here, I've noticed. I think this, sometimes, once in a blue moon, those who call ourselves artists, writers, poets, we manage to get out of the common sense zone and do something really. But I dare not label it as a prajna, but at least you are outside of the zone of common sense, order, sort of formula, basically, a formula. And then it's like a shifting, it's like mind-boggling. It's like it takes you somewhere, it dents your zone, it dents, it hold on your sort of commonsensical comfort zone, the box, thinking out of the box. But Prajna is not thinking out of the box, by the way. Really important. Prajna is, how should I put it? I don't know, this is difficult because it's inexpressible. Prajna, the Prajna sort of way of functioning is you don't necessarily, because Prajna thinks that out of box is a boundary. It's better to, it really doesn't matter. Out of the box in the Prajna's sense is an effort. Why go out? That's an effort. That's just another boundary. Why not just stay in the box but not get ruled and dictated by the box? This is like really out of the lack of choice of words and expression. I'm using this. And by the way, this is also used in the classic Buddhist texts, like lotus is one of the most used analogy, like born in the muddy water but not stained by the muddy water. Born in the, like dirt, but and there's so many, like no mud, no dirt, no like no filthy water, no lotus. So the lotus actually survives, or lotus is more beautiful and more, alive within the muddy, filthy water. So when we talk about a Prajna, although we have to use the words like transcendence, transcend, right? Prajna paramita transcendent. Is that how they use the word transcend? The common translation is
perfection.
Perfection, yes. Extreme perfection. Okay. Paramita, perfection. So this is basically sort of some of the nuances that you need to know when we talk about Prajna. Now then, like out of this, everything has to, out of this or within this, within the sphere of Prajna, then everything fits, everything functions, everything manifests. I hate to use language like this because I think the listeners, they always end up interpreting this as some sort of a very mystical, superhuman, super mundane, energy or force. It's not. It's something that you have at all time within you. Remember, you have mind, that you. Well, the one who has mind, you have mind. One who has mind, that one is the Prajna. Okay. Is that something that we can reach? Is that something that we can use? Is this Prajna something that we can actually utilize or live with or function with or I don't know. How can we take advantage of this prajna that I have or I am? How can how can we, yes, eat, drink, talk, walk, sleep? Yes, live, die, sleep, dream. How can I do all these using prajna rather than mind? This is all about dharma. Generally, almost all the Indian wisdom, I think, especially the teachings of the Buddha Dharma. Really, the Dharma is basically that. Okay, then that is like infinite. So many methods. How do we begin? You can many ways. Okay, one is how about beginning with a little bit of a cautiousness or wariness or sort of generating this mistrust towards mind, a whole lineage. I don't know about this mind, this mind business I can't trust, There's a whole that lineage in the Indian, wisdom tradition. And it's actually probably the most, most prominent and most popular. Then there are, there are people, there are lineages or the teachings that don't really think about the cautiousness and the wariness and the mistrust of mind, because they think it's a bit of a waste of time. Okay, it's like you are given a kilo of ore with dirt and everything, you are a goldsmith and you are given an ore, looks dirty, doesn't look at all like a gold shiny, but your attitude is, I'm not going to think about that. It's dirty, it's not polished, it's not bright, it's not shining. I'm not going to waste time thinking this. I'm happy. This is gold anyway. I'm going to take it as it is. I'm not going to let myself bothered by the look of it. Understand? The dust, the sort of unrefined. I'm not going to exhaust my energy and keep on thinking this. So there's that tradition. Millions of methods. Both contrary to what many people seem to be now thinking, both tradition does not reject color, flowers, songs, dance, music. There are certain type of people who think that the flowers, incense, dance, music will distract them. So they choose to not have those. And that's also fine. There are practices that really emphasize on simplicity. And it works for a lot of people. There are others who can't have enough of flowers, enough of incense. Because I think it transcends, it takes them away from mind. Remember, our project here is to, trash the mind and go to the prajna. So then we hear that, even in the chant that I was doing earlier, to the praise to the Tara, there is shlokas like, I will just loosely translate. There's a shloka where it talks about her right feet. That's sort of we call it like a royal posture, and it's so she's sitting in that posture, and that feet. This you have to be prepared with a mind of appreciating the prajna now. You understand? You can't think in terms of common sense. You understand? The moment you go into this commonsensical, mathematical, practical, then you will lose the prajna. Okay? So it's believed that her feet, right feet, especially right, I think that the big toe, if it touches the earth, the 3,000 world, these are all Indian expression, 3,000 world. How do you say this?
It creates. It's a non-dual expression of it. Something like a toe, small toe, creates
yes.
kind of grandeur.
3,000 world. Anyway, if it touches. If her toe touches the 3,000 world, the 3,000 world will shake and become so chaotic. So there is a shloka where Shiva is holding her feet, saying, "Please, Mother, for the sake of us, ignorant beings and deluded beings, show your compassion. Don't put this on the ground yet. We are not ready." Okay, now, how in the Indian mind Shiva is everything, especially I believe that, Karnataka, where people really think of him as the highest, the destroyer, the lord of the dance, the Natharaja, all of that. But this is how it is, in the world of the prajna, the master becomes slave, the slave becomes a master instantly. They change. Doesn't matter. And no one complains about this. No one. Same thing, I think, even in the sort of the Kali, I have seen Kali standing on Shiva. I have never met an Indian who said, "This is so rude of Kali doing this." They accept this totally. Even though at other times, Shiva is very big. But this is fine. Of course. And in fact, they say Kali, if you take out Kali from the Shiva almost becomes like a vegetable, they say. Powerless, no Shakti. No power. So on and so forth. Can you now appreciate the culture of Prajna? This is all coming from the culture of Prajna. All these common sense like small, big, man, woman, master, servant, those are all mind's business. Sort of very troublesome. it's a troublesome and it's very binding. It's not liberating. So on and so forth. And then, okay, so that's Shiva. So as a follower of the Buddha, yeah, I totally accept. Of course, Shiva should be, holding her feet. Of course, that's his job, since I'm Buddhist. But there are other shlokas. Where when I place one of the flower to her right hand, right palm, and then the shloka talks about how millions of the Buddhas, they are crossing, they're walking now. They're crossing from one side of her palm to the other side, and they haven't reached even to the middle yet. All the Buddhas are walking on it. These are Prajna culture, or Prajna, what do you call it? Prajna world. Don't try to bring common sense here, you understand? Don't try to sort of, go through anthropological sort of evidence. Because the moment you talk about evidence, proof, weight, measurement, you have not only doomed yourself into the world of mind, but very, very limited, one-sided world of mind, which is really depriving. It's so depriving. And then, and then also, there's also a place where, in that other place, like all these eons, or the existence now, right now, that I know you, you know me. This is year 2020. This is after 2,500 years after Buddha passed into the body nirvana. This is year 2020 after Jesus Christ passed. So on and so forth. All this exists. During the time when her eyes blinks, as we all do, and during the duration of her eyes opening, all this is happening. And there will be a time where, when she will blink and close, all this stops. Yes, in the world of mind, you may even, out of trying to respect, you can call it poetic, but to me it's not a poetry. To me it's an expression of Prajna. It's really, it sounds like mythological, beautiful, poetic stories, what do you call it, symbolism. Nah, it's not a symbolism, it's real. You understand that it's real. But what do you call it, reality? This is truth. Because time means nothing. What is time? Quantity means nothing. Color means nothing. You have to think like that. If you want to think of the Prajna, you have to think like that. I guess you can train. And by the way, those who have the experience of encountering substance like whiskey, they go through that, sort of lost the sense of time, values, references. That's why they drink. Because it's sort of, it takes I don't think it's really a total departure from mind. I would not even say every time you open a bottle of whiskey, you reach to Prajna. Definitely not. I'm not going to say that. But I need to give you an example. If you have never seen gold, I have to show you something. Brass will do, even though very dangerous, because brass is not only not gold, it does look like a gold, and that's why it's very dangerous. So, whiskey could be whiskey impact or effect could be, similar to prajna, but it's definitely not. And because it's similar, it could be very dangerous. But, that's how you have to think. I think this is why also people go to Varanasi and order this special lassi. Bang? Yes, bang. I have asked one really strict, he's kind of strict, and some of you may have heard. I told him, you must drink that bang. So he did. So after about an hour, he was calling his daughter, saying, "How do you stop this? How do you stop this?" And the daughter, who has never done it, said, "I don't know." So then he asked her to ask around how to stop this experience. So she had to ask around and tell her, "You just have to wait now." Drink some water, you just have to wait. He said, "I can lie down, I can sleep, I can open my eyes, I can't close my eyes, I can't do anything." Anyway, if you want to talk about, if you want, first of all, to begin with, prajna cannot be expressed. Buddha himself said. But as I said, I am in a country, I'm with people who likes talking that cannot be taught. This is actually Indian way of life. This is Indian value. Longing for things that cannot be unlonged for. This is what keeps India going on, I think, the heart of the India. You understand? And it's really, really precious, actually. Why should we waste our time talking things that are talkable? That's not already redundant. You understand? It's a waste of time. It's already talkable. Yes. Now. So you need to know a little bit of that. The one who holds this, one who appreciates this, one who reads about it, one who longs for it, one who prays for this experience, one who cherish and look up to those people who have prajna. I was just saying yesterday. Last night, the musical experience that we had, and just before the music, the artists were all introduced, and it's so touching when they are introduced. There's she is so and so, a disciple of a guru, so and so. This is really precious. The being introduced as the disciple instead of being introduced as a teacher, or a master, or appreciation to the lineage. This, I think, again comes from the culture that emphasizes on Prajna, rather than what is intellect in the mind in the Hindi. Buddhi. Okay. Buddhi. How about in Kannada? Same Buddhi. Mind. Yes, sort of the blessing, prayers, blessings, all this works better. Better is not the right word. It works actually. It works just because there is prajna. If there's only buddhi in the mind, no. Then everything is predictable, predestined, or fatal. Fated. There's no room for any changes. Then you just have to wait for somebody to save you, so to speak. You understand? Otherwise, just your savior. That's the one that will save you is your prajna. You have it. The reason that you have been kidnapped by your buddhi, you have been imprisoned, you have been sort of tormented by your own mind. You can be free by your own prajna. And am I talking too much now? When is the tea stop? I forgot. 11, okay. Okay, so with this, I will, I guess I'll just say a few words of the classic sort of training to, what do you call it, prajna, that is found in the Buddhist and especially in Mahayana tradition. Okay, some of you may be quite familiar with the concept called 3 baskets of teachings in Buddhism. There's all the teachings of the Buddha is sort of categorized into 3 sort of baskets. It has, is that how they? Yeah, baskets. There's something called sutra, and then there's abhidharma, and there's Vinaya, right? This is okay. Okay, so three baskets are 3 categories or 3 kinds of teachings is taught because generally, this is a big generalization, okay? Generally, broadly speaking, there are 3 different kinds of ailment or a downfall or defilement, kleshas. One coming more, the kleshas, some of the kleshas coming more as a clinging desire. The other is aggression, assertiveness, anger. Yeah. sort of aggression, and then ignorance, basically. So, accordingly, Buddha taught many of his teachings has this elements of discipline. So many, even like really, totally like I don't know, mundane is the word or not. Like how you wash your hand, all the way to, watching the mind and so on and so forth. Okay, so more to do with it, like ethical, moral, ethic. So teachings that, ethic. Yes, ethic-related teachings. And ethic-related teachings are, again, the ethic-related teachings are especially in the Mahayana. I'm sorry, I have to give you some of these categories because as a body, so that you can understand the body of the Prajna. There's an ethics on emphasizing how to help others. Okay, that's a something to think about. Something that you should make note, because Sentient, we call it. It's like ethic related to helping others. It's a big one. And then ethic related to refraining from doing things that are not virtuous. Things like, I think Panchashila may have come from this second category. Okay? And then the discipline or the ethic related to extracting virtue, extracting wisdom, Prajna. Okay. The reason why I wanted to give you this category, even though category is so confusing sometimes, is it's like this. Okay. So I'm talking about the Prajna. Okay, I'm relating everything to the Prajna. Okay. Okay, let's use lying. Lying, as it is a non-virtuous action. Okay, just in the general sense. But if you bring to Buddhism, and especially in the Mahayana Buddhism, we need to really sit down and talk. Because remember, I'm giving you 3 categories of ethic, and I told you the first one is the ethic that is meant for helping others, And the second one is ethic to refrain you from non-virtuous action. Now, lying. What happens if by you lying save somebody? See? Now see Prajna, the valley of Prajna. Because if you don't have the Prajna, then you will be just like, no, I'm a Buddhist, I cannot lie. Okay, somebody come here, somebody who's, maybe he or she is going to be killed, somebody is chasing this, went this way. And then what? The next person comes and says, wait, did you see somebody running? Yes, I saw. I'm a Buddhist, I don't lie. So strange, isn't it? It's like, so you have to think like this. Yes, so it gets, So from the mundane sort of world point of view, it's difficult to, it gets very complicated. In the world of common sense, becomes really complicated. So on and so forth. Right? In the Mahayana Shastras, there's even a mention of the Bodhisattvas killing others to benefit many more. You must have heard some of these stories in the Jataka, Mala Sutra. So, ethic that's more to help others, and the ethic to refrain yourself from non-virtue need to be balanced. And who does that? The ethic that extracts the wisdom. And what do we mean by extract? Extracts the wisdom, meaning, it's because, see, can you imagine, if you don't have that third ethic, the first ethic and the second ethic has a big problem. It's a big contradiction. Now, this actually reflects so much in the Buddhist world. If you look at it, have you been to like Buddhist temples? There are people like her, relentlessly shaving their hair. None. That's her choice. Then there are people, yogis, paranoid that their hair will drop. Contradiction, looks like. Also, there are like a Buddha's disciple, like Ananda, Shariputra, renounced saint, no shoes, begging bowl, nothing to eat, only beg food, sit simple. Then there are people like Vimala Kirti or Manjushri, rich, powerful, limousine, gold shoes, gold toilet seat, all kinds of wealth. Both are venerated. In fact, if you go to the Tantric world, it's even more mind-boggling. Tantric, we, the Buddhists, venerate barbers and fishermen, prostitutes. Even my own lineage that I practice, I was recently counting how many prostitutes were there above my head when I pray. At least, I was making notes, there's about 28. And one of them, her only wish is to continue life after life, remain as a prostitute. See, and why? Why is it like this? Prajna, really. If no prajna, only serene, gently walking, vegetarian, smiling all the time, who says no to whiskey. You understand? Only those guys we venerate. All the others, we don't even let them in. But this is not the case. This is the beauty of the Indian wisdom tradition. It's really... See, if you can appreciate the prajna, there is no room for politically correctness, suffering. Political correctness, suffering. This is a suffering. So, anyway, sorry, getting distracted a bit here. So, okay, so there's this three. I think I've confused you already. Okay, so there's a three baskets. There's a three ethics, right? And go back to the three baskets. That there's three baskets of Vinaya, Sutra, and Abhidharma. Thank you. Are you sure you want me to teach Buddhism?
Very much so.
Really? I don't even remember some of the three most important, baskets. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so these three baskets, one of them deals with ethics. I told you already. The second basket, let's call it second basket, deals with Tingzin. Is this word is difficult to translate. Dhyan, concentration or one-pointedness. Sadly, it's been translated as meditation. It's really not a good word. It basically means Tingzin. Tingzin is the word Tingzin. Dhyan is basically totally seeing in total, seeing totally, and taking things totally. That's the art. The art or the training or the discipline is to take things not partially but totally. In other words, not distracted to here and there. Okay, so it's like this. Remember we were talking yesterday was it yesterday? Okay, like I'm looking at a very healthy person like him. Like, wow, you look healthy. But that time I'm not really having the total picture. I should have a total picture. Oh, he's a compounded phenomenon. He must also be unhealthy. Not lopsided. I'm trying to explain the dhyan in a sort of mundane language. What is lopsided? What's that expression? Lopsided? Lopsided? Yeah. Dhyan is the opposite of lopsided, basically. What's the opposite of lopsided? Prejudice. Dhyan is the opposite of prejudice. The moment we look at something, we have a prejudice. Like I'm looking at this man and I think he's alive. But I should be thinking he's dying also together. He's living and dying together. See, again, go back to the Prajna. The Prajna's people, Prajna culture thinks like this. I forgot the word. Okay, anyway, arising is also the setting. Birth is the death. Death is the birth. appearance is non-existence. Non-existence is the appearance. That is seeing totality, seeing everything totally. Well, if you go deeper, this is the tantric people. When a tantric see a man, not lopsided, it's also a woman. Woman is also a man. Seeing somebody only as a man, doomed. You are robbed by mind. You are detached from Prajna. Yeah. So there's the whole basket called Sutra, right, which is really to do with how to see things not lopsided, how to see things without prejudice, how to see things basically in totality. There's so many the sutras, and one of my job is translating the sutras. It's really like Mount Meru climbing. It's really endless. There's so many beautiful, like a conversation between the old lady and the Buddha. Conversation between a child and the Buddha, all to do with this kind of thing. Anyway, so that's one of the basket. And then the whole basket purely dedicated to Prajna. Not that. Even in the Tibetan temple, of course, many of you may not realize this because these are small nuances of the Tibetan life. They have the like Buddha's sutras, like a canon. They will put in the library like that. This basket, the basket of the Prajna, is always put above. And the words and sentences are also carved on the wood and paintings. And also, this basket, this section of the teaching, we also have a nickname for all this. Human beings are terrible. Like nickname for these subjects also. And some of the nicknames are really beautiful. Like the Prajna section is called Yum. Yum means mother. That's a beautiful actually. Prajna, the Prajna section is always referred to as Yum, mother. Because all the Buddhas has to come only through realization of the Prajna. Not through ethic, not through, total, being there. No. Only with the Prajna. If no Prajna, those two are just a pain in the neck. Who wants to be in the totality? Why? Who wants to behave? Behaving is such a burden. Just the very word of behaving is like so annoying. Why would we want to behave? It's so like something that Kim Jong-un would do, not us. But Prajna, because of the Prajna, then you feel, oh yeah, it's worthy to behave. And also, you feel like behaving because of the value of the Prajna. I should look at the time. Yeah? Okay, time out. I guess we begin with your question.
Thank you. So Rinpoche, this has to do with the way you started about Prajna and mind. And the project is to lose the mind, common sense, etc. So we begin to live in Prajna. Now, I understand fully that when you say lose the mind, you are talking of all the gross consciousness levels, common sense, logical, conceptualizing mind, and all the philosophical mind and so on. So we lose all that. But then you also said that when we eat and sleep and dream and live and die, we have to do it with prajna rather than mind. Now I was trying to understand this, and I was caught up with trying to imagine prajna as something disembodied from the mind, which I realized immediately was not so. So if we look at the various levels of consciousness of the mind, whether you look at the 8th level model or the 9th level model, so in the 8th level you have the other consciousness in which is embedded the Buddha nature, the Buddha nature, and or the 9th level model where you say 8 is the alaya with 9th is Buddha nature. So would it be correct for me to say that prajna is the highest level of consciousness, which is the Buddha nature, which is the very, very subtle mind?
Right.
And therefore when you say that we must live and die, etc., etc., through prajna, what we are actually saying is that while we could live from the ground of hell, greed, ignorance, we should be endeavoring to live our lives almost all the time when we have practiced enough from the ground of that Buddha nature. And that when we live from the ground of that Buddha nature, prajna sort of automatically arises because that's the attribute of the Buddha nature. Prajna is so attribute of his Buddha nature, you could say. Except that Buddha nature, we also have courage and compassion and everything else. So I don't know whether this track of thinking is correct.
I think it's like this. I'm trying to avoid using the word like a highest consciousness because it somehow isolates yourself from it, so to speak. It isolates, it distances, because the prajna, there's another Tibetan word called ye, she. This is quite an interesting word. She, yes, that's consciousness. I guess you can translate this as a consciousness. But the word ye is really important. Ye indicates before. You understand? So it's like before the knower and the knowing, there is a consciousness. You understand? Even before primordial wisdom, I think that's how they translate it. But because the moment we think about consciousness, we can't help but think in terms of subject and object. Conscious of what? Who is being conscious of? You understand? In the world of prajna, there is no knower and the knowing and the object that is known. But it's always there. So in the Tantra, not just Tantra, actually, even in the Mahayana, they say, just like a kilo of water is kilo of moisture, just like that, kilo of desire, kilo of anger, kilo of jealousy is a kilo of wisdom. I'm just giving you an example. Prajna. Okay, so the prajna is there all the time. Does it help you?
So can we equate prajna with primordial consciousness or primordial Buddha or something like that?
Yes, of course. There's a school of thoughts that uses Buddha nature, Tathagata Garbha, to talk about prajna also, yes. But in the, like a Nagarjuna people, they use the word prajna to talk about shunyata. And this is important because shunyata, for many people, shunyata is negation, an end, an exhaustion, nothingness. But absolutely not. Shunyata is very much knowing, cognizance. And as we talk about these things, by the way, we can't help but think in terms of that. There must be a really holy, almost unreachable, at least for the time being, this amazing, profound, holy consciousness somewhere that is beyond our reach at the moment. But this is not true. It's always there. It's always there. So, one of the most, I would say, effective way to experience this always there consciousness is the wisdom, the philosophy of self-awareness. I mean, experiences right now. There is a self-awareness all the time. I mean, right now. Apart from mind knowing something else, there is just simple self-awareness, which, by the way, is not the actual prajna, but this is what the Longchen Bab call it, the footprint of the prajna. If you follow that, you will end up in the prajna. Because it's the most non-dual you can experience now. Okay, you are knowing your mind by the mind. It's not like you have two minds. The one that knower and the another to be known. The mind itself knows itself all the time. It's there all the time. So invest on this at all times. And this is why all the vipassana training, basically, it can start with the most fundamental level of, okay, I am now opening my calf, my lid, I'm opening, I'm putting it down. Most fundamental level, and then, upgrading it to, okay, I'm thinking this. Just knowing, no judgment. So this training then helps you shrug off all this automatic judgment and solidifying everything. And then prajna surfaces. Right, surfaces. And when I'm talking about the sleeping and walking, this is, I was giving you the example. If you are, you can be an expert goldsmith. I give you a kilo of really rough-looking ore, but because you are really an expert in gold, you are happy. You are as happy as getting a totally cleaned up gold, right? That's one. The other is, you are not a gold expert, but you really want to have a gold because you want to be rich. And you really want to be rich quick. And you really want to have a gold. Now, the only option is you trust somebody, let's say, like me, for instance, and say, okay, I give you a kilo, rubbish. Go. Are you trusting that this is it? Now, if you are lucky, if you are fortunate, you will meet somebody who will not cheat you. And this is why, in the Tantra, the Guru, the Master ends up becoming important. So there's that option. I mean, what do you call it? Yeah. Anyway, I think my answer to you is I try not to use this higher consciousness. It just makes people feel distant. I don't want people to feel distant from this prajna that they always have. That from the mundane point of view makes you feel eccentric, makes you eccentric. What is centric? What is centric? Centric is like middle, right?
Lots to think about.
Okay. What else? Any question? Is this a question time?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a question I've been wanting to ask you since Pune. What is merit?
Merit.
What is it?
Oh.
Because you've spoken about how we can generate it. But
Since we are talking about the prajna, and this is an important question, since we are talking prajna, this is how a Mahayana people will say. You already have merit, and that is prajna. You already do. It's not like you have to get it from somewhere. You just have to use it. The prajna. Okay, let me explain this a little bit. Right? Okay, classic example. I always use this. This is dirty. You will wash it. What gives you the confidence to wash it? Because fundamentally it's clean. This, you may appear as dirty, but angry, ignorant, jealous, pride, all kinds of defilements. But those are all temporary. They are not you. This nature, they call it Buddha nature, that is the real merit. That's the real merit. Actually, that is also the union of merit and wisdom. Okay, now, generally, merit is when you have the ability. Okay, you are talking on the Buddhist level, right? Because there's also the general sort of Asian, you must have a merit because you are rich, you have won a lottery, all of that sort of very, very shallow way of explaining the karma and merit. But the Buddhist way is someone who has the longing, not only, longing, interest, curiosity towards the truth. That's how they will say is the merit. If you have that merit, you are wealthy, you are rich, you are abundant. You could be sleeping on a solid gold, bed, but if you have no interest in the truth, you are poverty-ridden, etc. You have no merit. So that's how the Buddhists would explain merit. Anyway, merit is the ability to interpret things, to understand things, to listen to things, to hear things. If you have the merit, especially based on longing for the truth, no matter what you hear. There's this famous story about Buddha coughed, and a doctor heard this, and a monk heard this, and an old lady heard this, and a doctor, because he's trained, Buddha has throat problem. That's the merit, his merit. So he was trying to sort that out. The old lady thought, throat problem, effect. That must have a cause. Cause, condition. So then the old lady understood the cause and effect, the logic, and then therefore the dukkha, and therefore the path. So supposedly she got awakened. She achieved the awakened state. just because she has the ability to interpret that or take that chance. Or I think this happens all the time in every life situation. This is how also, like between friends, if you have a marriage, you will have less successful miscommunication. If you don't have marriage, you will have more successful miscommunication. Okay.
I had a question following on from yours, which was that it seemed to me when you said that Prajna has a mind, it seemed to me that consciousness comes in from a place of Prajna. That's how I understood it.
Okay.
And I wondered whether the source of some remedy to all the suffering that happens in the thinking mind, in the mind that's existing and is conscious and is seeing the world, the answers to so much of it might lie in Prajna. But I wondered, a lot of the suffering that continues like the repetition, of all the bad things that happen, relationships with parents, which then continue with partners and continue throughout life, keep on replaying the same kind of suffering. I wondered whether is the source of all of that not in Prajna as well? Of the good stuff and the bad stuff and the not so good stuff and not so bad stuff. Does it not have all of that?
Very good. Excellent. Yes. There is this, but it's really, it's a very big question. Prajna and the display of the Prajna, the whole that thing we are talking here. Okay, it's like this. Back to the footprint of the, we were talking about the footprint. If you have lost your pet elephant, then you are really desperate and you are really looking for this elephant. And if you bump into the big footprint, you can consider, it's here. You understand, it's almost like you have found. But even though that footprint is not elephant. So it's a bit like this. The mind, the consciousness, including the not so bad, the not so good, all that is actually footprint of Prajna. All comes and goes. But the problem is we either get satisfied by footprint, and that means limited. You understand? There's many other footprints also, and it's not yet the actual elephant. And so you have not conquered the awakened state. So it's a little difficult because what I'm basically saying is it is Prajna and at the same time it is not. You understand? Yeah, it's... Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. But again, as I was speaking this morning, you really have to get used to, if you want to talk about and live with the culture of Prajna, you have to really learn to appreciate this kind of paradoxical conversations. Sort of really.
I wonder whether it is about the uncertainty of reaching one footstep to the other.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yes.
When we talk about the nature of Prajna or Buddha nature, like somehow the word nature sounds a little deceptive to me sometimes. So is it another case of it's there but it's not the
Yes.
nature?
Always go back to the source, go back to the origin of our conversation. Buddha said cannot be expressed, but then it was Indra and Brahma who said, please speak. Somehow, just say it, speak it. And it's, Gethin Chapel also said this, if you want to, Gethin Chapel is one great commentator of Madhyamika. He was a Tibetan, by the way. He was really underappreciated by the Tibetan because he got imprisoned, etc., etc. He also really was very radical. He translated Kama Sutra from Sanskrit literature, all that. Anyway, how would you explain to somebody who has never tasted salt? And so this is kind of like, especially you have no choice, especially if you have to really take care of somebody out of compassion. How do you explain someone who never had a salt in his life? Inexpressible, isn't it? But you can by giving these people like chili, sugar, I don't know, some other taste, and end up, and each time they taste saying, this is not it. This is not salt. And there is whole that tradition of teaching, by the way, which is basically what is expounded really very amazingly by guys like Nagarjuna. So you hear this lot of, this is not it, this is no nose, no ear, no this, no that. And then there's the whole other approach by Asanga in the tradition, Asanga tradition. They talk. They don't use a negative word, but they do, how should I say, how do you translate the word guna in English? Guna. Virtue. Quality. They talk a lot about qualities, and some of the qualities that they talk are mind-boggling, like a antelope-like ankle of Buddha, like his body, the width and the length is same. It's like mind-boggling. And everything what we talked this morning, the Tara's strength and the quality. So that's another approach. So these guys use the words like nature. Okay, this is important, I think. Both, remember, you are not supposed to talk. Even Buddha said, it cannot be expressed. Moment you express, you fall into a pitfall. But we are trying to still, because of the dukkha, we need to talk, we need to follow a path. So there are so many practitioners of the past and the scholars, they also prescribe a lot of strategy. If you go to like the Buddhist monasteries or schools, many times in the Tibetan monastery, they will teach Madhyamika first. For years they teach Madhyamika. And then at the end, like if you are studying 9 years, 7 years is the Madhyamika and the Prajna-paramita. Then the last remaining years, they learn like Asanga and, it's a strategy. No, no. Negation, and then when you finally come to the conclusion nothing exists, then everything exists, quality. So even in one sutra it exists. For instance, like even in a tradition, okay, if you go to Thailand, Sri Lanka, these guys, they talk about anatta all the time. No self, but they are the one who talks about the marriage, begging bowl, begging arm, shaving hair, not eating after lunch. They do it so relentlessly and meticulously. You understand that if there is no self, why are we, So this sort of technique of cancelling each other, this is like the strategy of Buddhism. They give you a path, they give you journey that cancels each other. Shamatha and Vipassana actually is a bit like this. The thing that we talked yesterday. Shamatha sounds like, Shamatha, calm mind, malleable mind. Make the mind workable, calm, so that you have a control over your mind. Sound familiar? Shamatha. And then comes the Vipassana. Says, there's no mind. What do you mean by control? There is no, calm. What do you mean by calm? But then again they apply the shamatha. So this sort of cancelling all the way to the Tantra. Guru Yoga. You pray to the Guru with all these kind of chants and the mantras and the supplication. At the end, Guru dissolves into you. You become inseparable with the Guru. So there's nobody praying, nobody beseeching, nobody receiving blessing, nobody giving blessing, so on and so forth. This is called path of the union of wisdom and method.
So it always sounds like you're pulling something from the ultimate realm into samsara and trying to dissect it. Like,
yes.
Can we do that?
Well, that's the sort of the aim, isn't it? To dismantle the
Rinpoche, I have a question about all compounded phenomena are impermanent. And I've always had this question, and I thought possibly I'll figure it out someday. But it's still a nagging question. You mentioned that out of the 4 seals, the first 2 seals are on a relative level, and the
yes.
phenomena, and the last 2 are the relative ultimate truth. Now in the samsaric world, there are a lot of grey areas, more than black and white, and especially in terms of myriad of human relations and situations and circumstances. When do you really surrender at the moment of not kind of pursuing or letting it be, and then kind of considering it as impermanence, and just kind of...
Can you give an example?
Something like maybe career, that matter, a change of career, and then you're kind of pursuing multiple kind of situations, and you have a lot of interests, but and then you kind of really try to pursue a thing which is like really good for you, and you really believe in that you're good in it, and you really pursue a lot, and somewhere you feel that someday it might work, and but it doesn't really, you fall short of pursuing, and you don't really know, but you kind of pursue it, and again it falls through.
Right.
So when do you know that...
Actually, for that, you don't even need the other 3 seals. Just the first seal will do. Just because every compounded things are impermanent. Therefore, you should never think only that it may not work. You should always have the total picture. It will work, it may not work, together.
So we do pursue it? Or
Yes. Of course, because if you don't pursue or pursue, either way, it is falling into one extreme, isn't it? Do it. Because anyway, you are not yet realized being, and to, even if you miss one lunch, you will feel hungry. So you need to pay the bills, you need to pay rent, all of that. You are at the moment caged with this kind of logic, this kind of this kind of manifestation. That's a manifestation, isn't it? It's the world we have created. Our education has created this kind of logic that you need to get education, then you can get a job. That's you. And you have been, yes, okay, you can say you have been forced by probably your parents, by society, and you are also willingly gone into that, and now maybe you think this is very binding and entanglement. That's already a good news. For the spiritual people, that's already a good news. But you still are stuck with your body, your habit. So, as the Buddha himself said, you have to play the lute very, not too tight, not too loose.
This is a moment-to-moment observation. And does that apply to human relations as well?
Everything. Yes, relations.
Because they're the most trying, sensitive, difficult aspects.
Yes, it is. It's really the most. It's the most important, and it is the most important. It's the least important. It's the most draining. It's the most fulfilling. It's
Yeah, because every moment is a struggle to kind of consider it as okay, it's impermanent. Let us just drop it, or you just really pursue it. So that moment of decision making is really, really a struggle.
Yes. But if you know it's compounded, I think the struggle will become less. You know what I mean? If you know if you really get used to knowing that it's a compounded phenomena, the struggle, the strength of the struggle will become less. So the more and more of real whatever. Not just whatever as a reaction, but sort of the real sort of sense of whatever. But in a very gentle way. Okay.
Because there's sometimes whatever comes to okay, fine, I don't want to see it.
Yeah, of course. But that's you believe in not working or working. So you are forgetting compounded phenomena. Isn't it? If you really see the total picture of the compounded phenomena, the moment you give up, they seem to come in. Yes, that's. And actually, if you know this more, you actually will know how to play the game better. Anyway, it's just a game, isn't it? So you will know how to sort of let loose the leash and then pull the leash. And exhaustion only comes when you don't know it's a game. And
so we know it's a game, but we choose to see that it's not a game.
Or no, you know it's a game and then you play, but because you know it's a game, then it becomes a play. The moment you know it's not the moment you forget it's a game, then it's no more a play, isn't it? Then it's a serious matter. So I think it's good to know it's a game of compounded phenomena. I think so. I think it will really help relationship. And yes, the other person really will. This is why actually it should be really, how would you date with a seventh Bhumi Bodhisattva? It's very, really interesting. Okay.
Absolutely. But I'll come back to what Kavali's question is.
Rinpoche, you talked about Prajna and project to lose the mind. What is the role of the body in all this? Because of course there are many wisdom traditions that say that one of the methods of losing the mind is to focus on the body, and therefore yoga traditions and many of the movement traditions. But in the Buddhist view, what role does the body play in consciousness?
Okay. I think this would be good to, when Shakyamuni was about Siddhartha, after all this struggle, practice, whatever, just before dawn, actually, when he was awakened, enlightenment, under the Bodhi tree in Magadha, presently called Bodhigaya. There is a story about the visit of Mara. That this is quite an important subject. So when we talk about Mara, we talk about the 4 Maras. And out of the 4 Mara, okay, so 4 Maras, sort of the grandfather or the general of all the Mara is, we name this Mara Devaputra. Devaputra means son of God, right? Anyway, if you ask what that is, then the Mahayana Sutra says that's actually this mind that keeps on thinking this is it, this is it, this is not it. You understand? The reference. That is Devaputra. That's the grandfather, the general, the brigadier, whatever, the real. Okay? This then creates emotion. Of course, this is it, this is not it, this is good, this is bad, this is what I want, this is not I want. Obviously it creates emotion. So then second in command is the second Mara is the emotion, Mara of emotion. Then the Mara of the emotion creates the gross phenomena. This is where Pumbuktu, the Mara of aggregate, this includes the body. So it's the third in rank. And if you have a body, then you have the death and the birth. And I think the word Mara somehow also in the ordinary people's mind, Mara is associated with the death. So actually they miss the 3 other more vicious problem. They only, because everybody, nobody cares about the reference and aggregates. We only worry about the death. So Mara, the death. But Buddhist 4th Mara, when we say death, we are including the birth. Both. You wanted to ask a question about relationship?
I was trying to get a reference. I was trying to get a clarification from you. It's about 10 years ago in Taiwan, you gave a very good talk, which I keep referring to my young nieces and young friends, saying about on love and relationships. And I suggest everybody, I'm sure you have listened to it, if you haven't, please go back to it. 3 points you made in there. Right at the beginning you talked about it doesn't work. So it started with the conclusion that it doesn't work. All romantic attachment, you can call it relationship, partnership, marriage, whatever it is. Underlying theme is romantic attachment. It doesn't work. So that's how we started. Please go back to this. If you have anybody who has confusion, go back to the talk. And then I talked about 2 points, which are the biggest delusions of a romantic attachment or relationship. Is that the people think that they are communicating. Why do you need a partner? Oh, I need somebody who understands me. And the second thing is that communication. So he knocked that off also. And the second thing is the sharing. Oh, we share. He shares my life. He shares my feelings. He knocked that off also. There is no communication, no sharing. And then he said, which is basically the key word, you have successful miscommunication, which you call a relationship. Will you still stick to all this?
I think that I should tone down the "it doesn't work" part.
That's
okay. Because it can, because it's a compounded phenomenon, you can always have a, successful miscommunication, which is sort of, you can think it's working, isn't it?
Also, people have different definitions of what is working.
Right. Yeah. I've been talking to many Chinese young people also. Chinese young people, they live in the world of WeChat, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, but they also want to have a, marriage quality of Song Dynasty. Song Dynasty, is it? Or, yeah. It's a little difficult, isn't it?
Can you hear me, Rinpoche?
Yes.
So this is something that you said when we were in Rajadatu, outside of Pune, about the different kind of levels or ways of practice. You kept emphasizing that it's enough or good to do nothing. And then if we want to do a little bit more, we could potentially chant a mantra. Or if we want even more, maybe we should go get the empowerment and then, do the visualization and so on. So there's different levels or ways of practice. My question is, how do we know if we are if we've chosen or if we are doing the right way of practice? Is there, or how can we be confident in that? What are the signs?
I don't, this, thinking, I have to do a little bit more, this is not enough. I think it's kind of, it's bad and good both. I think, if you think, I have to do a little bit more, I must do this and that, I think it's a good thing also. Of course, it's also distracting and it's very unsettling, and you may hear advices like, why don't you stick with this? You understand? But I think if you are longing and if you are looking for more, probably it is a good sign that your innate prajna is really trying to get out. So maybe you should jump into more tools and lifestyles and information. Yes, information is important, I think. Many times, I think it's wrong to think that, although yes, hearing, contemplation and meditation is what is prescribed in general, sometimes if you hear a certain information at the right time from the right person and you are in a really good, listening mode or a hearing mode, that information can just change everything, and further there is no so-called practice. It's a bit like if someone tells you, or I don't know, like your partner, your husband or your wife. Oh, he's a half snake. Or I don't know, whatever. You're going to see exactly, that's what I'm saying. So and I don't know. 40 years, it never really bothered you, but then from that day onwards, something will change. You will like to sort of, in the middle of the night, at least look at the person and see, but this is really snake. See, sometimes the information. So, I think hearing the information on Prajna, wanting to hear, those are good. I think those indicates you need maybe more. Anything else, or are we finishing here? We are about, we can finish here, I think.